"I need to feed my son." "I'll help you." He just wanted to save his baby boy. But when a tired Apache warrior knelt in front of a sad mom and asked for her milk, their lives crashed together in a way nobody liked. She had just lost her own baby. Her body was ready to give life, but her heart was empty from sadness. Still, she chose to share not just milk, but a new chance. That one kind act started a wild chase through deserts and special places. Because to his tribe, the baby was now wrong and had to be stopped. What came next was a trip full of danger, secret love, and a mom standing strong between life and death. This is a story about hurt, being pushed away, and tough choices. But mostly, it's about love that won't give up. If you think love beats hate, tell us below. Love is special. Stay with us. This story will stick with you. The train station had no name anymore. Faded signs hung crooked, and the wind whistled through broken windows of an old, empty building. Rusty tracks ran through the hot desert, going on forever into dust and quiet. On a beat-up bench, she sat alone. Her skin was pale and dry from the sun, almost see-through in the bright afternoon light. Her hand shook as she held a soft, warm blanket, so small, still folded where it once held a newborn. But now the blanket was empty. Her eyes were puffy and red, but no tears came. She had cried so much, there were none left. She stared at nothing, empty inside. Under her shirt, her chest hurt, full of milk that would never be used. It felt cruel to be ready to be a mom, but have no baby to feed. Then she heard footsteps crunching on the gravel. She looked up slowly. Out of the wavy heat came a tall man, wobbly but walking with purpose. His long black hair was messy and dusty, falling over his shoulders like a dark curtain. His clothes were worn out, his shoes torn, and in his arms, wrapped in a ragged sling, was a crying baby. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His face, rough from sun and hard times, had lines from sweat and old tears. He knelt in front of her, not scary, but desperate, eyes down, voice shaky. "Please," he whispered. "He needs milk." She blinked. The baby's cry was loud and weak, the sound of being hungry too long. She looked at her chest, then at the man, and then at the baby, whose lips moved, searching without seeing. Her body stiffened, her heart racing with sadness and instinct fighting inside. Her voice was rough from not talking. Takari looked up, and their eyes met. Two people, both broken. His shame was clear, but so was his love for the baby. "I can't feed him," he said, his voice shaking. "I tried everything. He's dying." She swallowed hard, still holding the blanket. She moved her other hand to her shirt, pausing for a second. Then she opened it. He looked away, respecting her. She gently took the baby from his arms. He was so light, too light. His skin was hot, lips dry and cracked. She held him close, and when her breast touched his face, he started to feed. A soft, shaky breath came from her. Not pain, but something else. A relief. The baby drank eagerly, his tiny fingers pressing against her skin. His cries stopped. Only quiet swallowing sounds were left. Takari slowly looked up. She was watching the baby, her eyes shiny now, not from sadness, but something warm. They didn't talk, but something passed between them. Not words, just a feeling, something special. Two hurt hearts, one baby, and a bond made from sadness and kindness. The wind got quiet, but inside the station, the silence was louder than thunder. A calm wrapped around the woman and the warrior as the baby fell into a deep, milk-filled sleep. His lips still moved a little, his cheeks no longer thin, but warm with life. She held him for a long time, not because she didn't trust Takari, but because for those moments, she felt whole again. The heaviness in her chest eased, not just from giving milk, but from something deeper, like a breath she'd held since losing her own baby. Takari sat beside her now, close but not too close. He kept his eyes forward, hands on his knees, but sometimes glanced at her and the baby. There was wonder in his eyes, and guilt too. He didn't mean to beg, but need breaks. "Proud people." She spoke first, her voice soft, unsure if she could talk in this strange moment between strangers. What's his name? Takari looked at her, pausing before answering. He doesn't have a name yet. His mother was supposed to pick one. There was a long silence. She looked at the baby, still nestled against her, his tiny fingers on her collarbone. No name, she whispered, almost to herself. He shouldn't wait for love. Takari flinched, like her words hit something sore inside him. He looked out at the hot land and nodded. Do you have a name? He asked gently. She blinked, realizing they'd stepped into each other's lives without even names. Eleanor, she said after a moment, but I haven't heard it said in weeks. He repeated it softly, trying the sound. Eleanor. Then he looked at her, eyes open. Thank you, Eleanor. She nodded, not sure how to answer thanks for something that felt like it saved her too. You? She asked, tilting her head. I'm Takari, he said. They let silence grow again, but it wasn't empty anymore. The baby whimpered in his sleep, and Eleanor gently rocked him to calm him. She hadn't done that in weeks, not since the night she held her own baby's cold body and begged him to wake. She glanced at Takari. How did it happen? She asked, not pushing, just curious. Takari paused. My wife, he started, was strong, brave. The midwife said she fought hard when the pain came, but something went wrong. Too much blood. Not enough time. His hands tightened, and Eleanor saw. His knuckles turn white. I held her, he went on. I told her the spirits would guide her. She said. He stopped, like the words might break him. She said, keep him alive, no matter what. Eleanor's throat got tight. And you've been alone since. Then? Takari nodded. I left the village the next day. They buried her, but I couldn't stay. Not without milk. Not with the elders saying a baby without a mom would bring bad luck. Eleanor blinked. They'd let him die. He didn't. Answer. That was enough. I lost mine too, she said quietly, her voice steady but fragile. He was born too early, so small. They wrapped him up and said there was nothing they could do. I begged. I screamed, but no one listened. Takari looked down, respectful. I'm sorry. She nodded, eye shiny. It's cruel to still have milk when your baby's gone. Like your body doesn't know or won't believe it. Their eyes met, and the silence was like shared sadness. No longer strangers, but two people walking through the same storm. He doesn't have a name yet, Eleanor said after a moment, looking down. Can I call him something? Takari nodded slowly. Hope, she said. I want to call him Hope. Takari whispered the name. Hope. He looked at the baby, then at Eleanor. He'll need that. The sun started to set behind sharp cliffs, casting long shadows over the desert station. The heat was turning to cool evening air, and a soft breeze stirred the dust. We should find shelter, Takari said. This place is too open. Eleanor looked unsure. I don't know where to go. I have a place, he said. A cave nearby. I found it last night when the wind was strong. It's hidden. She didn't answer right away. Trust was hard for a woman alone. But looking at the baby, then at Takari's worried eyes, she nodded. They moved carefully, Eleanor wrapping the blanket tighter around the sleeping baby. Takari helped her step off the platform, gentle and mindful. The walk was long. The desert went on forever. The horizon never closer, no matter how far they went. But Takari led with purpose, guiding them over dry streams and around prickly bushes until they reached a narrow opening in a rock wall. Inside, the air was cool and a little wet. The cave was small but dry. A cold fire pit sat in the corner, with bundles of dry grass against the back wall. This is yours? Eleanor asked. He nodded. For now. My grandfather used it for hunting. Few know about it. She laid the baby on the grass, tucking her shawl under his head. Takari started a fire with flint and dry bark, making small flames grow. She watched him, arms crossed, her body aching now that the rush was gone. Do you think they'll come for you? She asked. Takari's hand stopped over the fire. They will, he said. When they hear. What happened? Eleanor frowned. He didn't answer right away. In my tribe, feeding from someone outside the family is forbidden, especially from someone not like us. It hit her slowly. Because I fed him? He nodded. Her face paled, anger sparking, but he was dying. They'd let him die for a rule. Not all of them, but some, he said. The elders stick to old ways. They see milk as spirit. To them, your milk is strange, wrong. She shook her head, shocked. It's milk, Takari. It's life. I know, he said quietly. But they won't care. They'll call him impure. Eleanor's voice was cold. And you? They'll say I let it happen, that I broke their sacred rule, that I let my son feed from an enemy's breast. Her mouth dropped. I'm not your enemy. He looked at her, his eyes heavy with history. I know that now. She sat by the fire, pulling her knees close. So what happens next? Takari stared into the flames. We wait tonight. Rest. Tomorrow, we move. We have to stay ahead of them. She didn't argue, not because she agreed, but because she felt it was true. The baby stirred, his tiny fists reaching up. Eleanor picked him up and, without thinking, fed him again. Takari looked away, respectful. As the baby nursed, Eleanor whispered, mostly to herself, if this is impure, they've forgotten what it means to be human. The fire crackled, feeding hope, and two people, pushed out by fate, sat under the cave's stone ceiling, tied, not just by sadness, but by the start of something special. They didn't know yet, but the world would soon come looking, and love would be their only shield. The wind changed, so slight at first that it was hard to notice, but Takari felt it. The desert talked to him in ways words couldn't. He crouched outside the cave as the sun rose, watching the horizon where golden light spread over the quiet land. His hands were still, but his heart was stormy. Inside, Eleanor woke under a blanket of woven reeds and fur. She barely slept, her arms always around the baby, feeling his breathing to know he was alive. In the quiet between sleep and morning, she wondered how many more nights they could have like this. How long before peace turned to dust? Takari turned, and she stepped out, shielding her eyes from the sun. The baby was wrapped against her, sleeping. Something's wrong, she said, reading his face. He nodded. They're coming. She didn't ask how he knew. It didn't matter. She believed him. She held the baby tighter and glanced back at the cave. How long? Hours? Maybe less. His eyes scanned the distant ridges. They move fast when they hunt. Her throat got tight. What'll they do if they find us? They have orders, Takari said. To bring me back in shame. To kill the child. Eleanor froze. Kill him? Her voice broke. He's just a baby. Takari's voice was steady. To them, he's not one of us anymore. They think your milk ruined him. She stepped back, her jaw tight. So they'll spill blood to keep a tradition. Yes. Silence weighed heavy, like sand in their lungs. She went back to the cave, grabbed the baby's wrap and a small leather bag Takari gave her last night. We have to go, she sobbed. Takari didn't move, watching the mountains. There's a passage through the canyons, he said. Old hunting trails, hard to follow. Dangerous? More dangerous than staying. He looked at her. No. They started, down into the gorge after sunrise. The land twisted into narrow paths and sharp turns, full of rocks and shadows. The ground was tough, with loose dirt that could trip you. But Takari knew the way, and Eleanor followed without doubt, even as her feet blistered and her breath burned. Hours passed. The sun rose high, then started to fall. Sometimes Takari stopped, listening to the wind or touching the ground. He could feel them closer. They're on horses now, he said once, crouching by a flat stone, reading dirt like a book. 4 men, warriors. Eleanor's heart raced. She looked at the baby, peaceful in sleep, unaware of the danger chasing them. What do? We keep moving until the moon. By night, it got cold fast. The baby whimpered, and Eleanor wrapped her shawl around them both, keeping him warm against her skin. Takari found a spot between 2 cliffs and built a small fire with dry brush. As they sat by the flames, Eleanor looked at him through the shadows. Have you ever killed one of your own? Takari's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer right away. I fought many men, he said finally, but never my brothers. Would you now? Her voice was soft but strong. He met her eyes. I don't know. They sat quietly, the fire snapping between them. Eleanor fed the baby again as he shivered. Her eyes were far away, thinking things she didn't say. "You don't have to stay," she said after a bit. Takari looked surprised. "What do you mean? You could leave. Run another way. Save yourself. They want the baby, not you." "I broke their law," he said. "My honor's gone. There's no home left. You still have your life." Takari shook his head. "What's a life without your child?" Eleanor looked at him and understood. He wasn't just saving his son. He was holding on to his last bit of meaning. "You don't owe me anything," she whispered. "I owe him everything," he said. The baby stirred, full now, his mouth slipping from her breast. She held him gently, brushing his hair. "Then we run," she said, "together." The next 3 days blurred into one long fight to survive. They crossed dry rivers and twisted through canyons where the wind howled like wolves. They shared dried berries and stale bread from Takari's bag. Eleanor's feet bled through her shoes, and Takari's back was scratched from carrying her over rough spots. But they didn't talk about the pain. At night, they took turns sleeping, one watching the stars, the other listening for horses. By the 4th day, Eleanor's voice was hoarse from singing lullabies to keep the baby calm during bumpy walks. Her arms hurt, her chest sore from feeding so much. On the 5th morning, the signs were clear. Takari stopped on a ridge overlooking a wide plain. "They're close," he said. "Too close." Eleanor's lips were cracked. "How many?" "I smell 4 horses." Her breath caught. "I can't go faster, not with him." "I know. What do we do?" Takari scanned the land. "There's an old mining tunnel to the west. It goes through the rock to the highlands. They can't follow on horses." Eleanor adjusted the baby. "Can we make it?" "Only if we leave now." They ran. The last stretch was a tough climb. Loose gravel slipped under their feet. The baby cried, not from hunger, but fear, his cries echoing like a warning. Takari reached the tunnel first, a narrow crack in the rock. He held it open, waving her through. "Hurry!" Eleanor pushed herself harder than she thought she could. Her legs burned, her lungs screamed, and the baby's cries cut like glass. Behind them, the sound of hooves grew loud. Real, not imagined. She dove into the tunnel as the first warrior appeared on the hill. Takari saw them 4 riders, his tribe's sacred warriors, their faces painted, eyes cold. They weren't his brothers anymore. He slipped into the tunnel, and darkness hid them. They ran blindly, guided by faint light from cracks above. Rocks crumbled underfoot. The air was thick with dust. The baby wailed, unable to be calmed. After what felt like hours, they came out on the other side, high on a ridge overlooking miles of wild land. They collapsed by a broken tree, breathless, shaking. Eleanor held the baby tight, rocking him, her body trembling. Takari stood, checking the trail. No movement. Not yet. "They'll follow on foot now," he said. "We've got time, but not much." She turned slowly, her voice soft. "I can't do this forever." He looked at her, the woman who bled and climbed for a child not hers. "You shouldn't have to," he said. She looked up, eyes raw. "But I will until my body breaks." Takari knelt beside her, his hand finding hers. "No," he said. "We do it together." She stared at him, and for the first time since this started, she cried, not from sadness, but from exhaustion, love, and fear. He didn't look away. The baby slept between them, heart beating, alive. In the distance, war drums started, not for revenge, but for a reckoning. The air was thin and sharp up high, and every breath scratched Eleanor's lungs. The baby slept against her, worn out, his little body trusting. She hadn't stopped moving for days, and her legs wobbled. Each moment felt like it could be her last before falling. Takari walked ahead, quiet and alert, holding a spear now, not for hunting, but for what might come. He knew the land, but even he couldn't hide his worry. The warriors wouldn't turn back. They were trained to hunt until the end, with no mercy or forgiveness left. "Here," Takari said softly, pushing aside vines to show a narrow crack in the rock. They stepped inside, and Eleanor felt the change cool, shadowy, damp, like a secret, a hidden hollow in the cliff. She slumped against the wall, sitting down. Her arms felt empty, like branches. The baby stirred, then slept again. "We can rest," Takari said. "They won't come through in the dark." Eleanor didn't answer right away, too tired. After a long moment, she looked up. "I used to think losing someone was the worst thing you could survive," she whispered. Takari sat across from her, watching in the dark. "And now? Now I think it's love," she said. "Love is harder. Losing someone freezes you. Love makes you fight even when you're already broken." Takari looked down. "My people say love is weakness. It clouds your mind, dulls a warrior's edge." "They're wrong," she said. "Love is why I'm still standing." He looked at her deeply before speaking. "I know. It's why I haven't left." They shared a quiet moment, not distant, but understanding. In this hidden place, away from war and rules, their bond grew into something they didn't name yet. A faint sound came from outside. Eleanor stiffened. Takari listened. He stood fast. "They've split up. I hear two near the western ridge." "We had little time." Eleanor stood, the baby against her chest. "Then we don't wait." "No," Takari said. "We finish this." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "There's a narrow pass between the cliffs, an old place my people used for tests. It's sacred ground. They won't fight there, not even now." "You think they'll respect that?" "They'll hesitate. That might be enough." She nodded, trusting him more than the ground beneath her. They moved fast. The moon was full, lighting the rocky land. The wind sang through the rocks, like ghosts breathing. When they reached the pass, Eleanor saw what he meant. Two high cliffs made a narrow stone path, carved with animals, symbols, and strange marks. The air felt heavy, still, like the world held its breath. Takari slowed, turning to her. "This place is called Nacho, the place of judgment." Eleanor looked around. "What happened here?" "Long ago," Takari said. "People accused of big wrongs were brought here. If they could walk through and reach the end before sunset, they were forgiven. If not, their fate was set." She looked at the far end. A narrow path, maybe 50 steps, but it felt endless. "Do we go?" she asked. "No," he said. Wait, they'll come to us." They didn't wait long. The first warrior appeared at the pass's entrance, tall, painted red and black, feathers in his hair. Then a second, a third, and a fourth, an older man, his face worn like the stones. Takari stepped forward. The baby cried. Eleanor moved behind him, holding the child tight, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "You shouldn't have brought them here," one warrior said. "This place is sacred." "I remember," Takari said. "So do you." "That's why I chose it." "You shamed our blood," the man hissed. "Your child isn't one of us anymore." He drank from an enemy. Eleanor stepped forward, eyes flashing. "I'm not your enemy," she said. The warriors turned, surprised by her strength. "I fed him because he was dying, not to insult you, because I wanted him to live." "Your want doesn't make it right," another snapped. Takari raised his hand. "You talk of blood and rules, but what about mercy? What about the mother who died giving him life? Would she want this?" The oldest man stepped forward. "She'd want him whole," he said, "not tainted." "Then look at him," Eleanor said suddenly. She undid the wrap, letting her shawl fall, her shirt open, her breast full again as the baby cried. "If you want to take what's left of my son," she said, voice shaking with anger, "you'll have to kill me first." The wind stopped. The baby's cry echoed like a song. No warrior moved. Eleanor's body shook, not from fear, but from rage and grief. Her eyes locked with the old man's. "I lost my child," she said. "He never breathed. But this one lived, and I gave him life again. If that makes me your enemy, fine." The old man stepped closer, looking at her, then the baby reaching for her breast. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. "The child is fed," he said. "He is loved. That's more than many of ours have." One by one, the others lowered their spears. Takari stepped forward, stunned. "You'd let us go?" "No," the old man said. "You can't come back to the tribe. You're exiled. But we won't take the child's life." Eleanor fell to her knees, sobbing. Takari caught her, holding her, shielding her. "Go now," the old man said. "Before sunrise." They didn't wait. Takari lifted Eleanor and the baby, and they vanished into the shadowed path beyond the sacred stones. As they walked, Eleanor whispered to the child. "You live," she said. "You live." Behind them, for the first time in years, 4 warriors walked away from an order. The trail past the sacred pass was steep, winding through wild land untouched by people. For miles, it was quiet, only broken by hawks calling and grass rustling underfoot. Eleanor walked slower, her steps heavy, but not from fear anymore. Her arms, though tired, held the child gently, now with quiet victory. Takari led, looking back often, not for chasers, there were none, but because he couldn't believe they made it. The elder's eyes at the pass still haunted him. Mercy wasn't easy or free, but it was given, and that changed everything. The baby slept against Eleanor's chest, his cheeks full, skin warm, breathing steady. Every breath was proof they fought and won. They traveled 2 more days quietly, following animal paths and old trade routes Takari knew from childhood. At night, they made small fires in hidden spots and kept their voices low, listening to the wind. Eleanor's feet healed slowly. Her back ached, but her heart started to lift, piece by piece. On the 3rd evening, as the sun sank and painted the sky red, they reached a valley hidden behind stone and sage. From the ridge, Eleanor saw tents spread across the plain like a patchwork quilt. Smoke rose from fires. Kids' voices echoed. Dogs barked. A community. She turned to Takari, unsure. "Is this?" He nodded. "They're the Katama, nomads, outcasts from broken tribes. They don't ask questions, only what you can give. Will they take us?" "They'll take the child," he said. "And if they take him, they take you. And if they take you," he paused, "they take me." She didn't ask more. She didn't need to. They walked into the valley. At first, no one came near. Eyes watched from tents and over fires. These people knew caution the hard way, but they didn't shut their doors. An older woman with a long braid and warm eyes came to them in the village center. She looked at Eleanor, the baby, then Takari. Her hand showed years of work and ink. "You come from the south," she said, not asking. Takari bowed his head. "We come in peace and hungry," Eleanor added softly. The woman looked at the child. "He drank from you." "Yes," Eleanor said firmly. "He lived because of it." The woman nodded slightly. "Then your body holds spirit." She waved them to follow. "Come, you'll sleep. Tomorrow we talk." That night, under a tent that barely hid the stars, Eleanor slept deeply for the first time in weeks. The baby was beside her. Takari just passed the fire. When she woke at dawn, women surrounded her, old, young, some with babies, some with empty arms. The elder stood in the middle. "You have milk," she said. "Yes." Eleanor sat up, blinking. "I do, and you'd give it to others." Eleanor looked at the baby, sleeping, his hand on their chest. "I would." So her work began. The Katama took her in, not as a stranger, but as a healer. Moms with no milk came with desperate eyes. Orphans from war or sickness were placed in her arms. Each time, Eleanor gave not just milk, but warmth, connection, life. Word spread fast. They called her Minatari, Mother Flame. Babies she fed grew strong and calm. Some cried when taken away. Others slept at her breast, dreaming safely. Takari watched from a distance at first, unsure of his place. But soon he found purpose, teaching boys to track and read the land, carving arrows from bone, singing old songs by the fire. The Katama didn't ask why he left his tribe, only if he'd stay. He did. One night, under the stars with the baby. Between them, Eleanor said, "I still dream of the boy I lost." "I still talk to the wife I buried," Takari replied. They sat quietly. "I thought I'd never feel love again," she whispered. "So did I," he said. Takari pulled out a small bundle from his bag, wrapped in deer hide. Inside was a ring, made of bone, braided with horsehair and grass. "It's not gold," he said, "but it's made with hands that chose you." Her eyes teared up, but she didn't cry. She held out her hand. He slipped it on. The ceremony was simple. No priest, Just fire and people who loved them. Kids danced. Women sang in languages Eleanor didn't know, but felt. Takari stood beside her, hand in hers, the baby toddling at their feet. They weren't just a man and woman joined by rules. They were survivors, lovers, parents made by fire and grief. Time passed. Seasons changed. The valley bloomed, faded, bloomed again. Eleanor kept working, even when her milk dried. She stayed close to moms, teaching them to hold, bond, love. She was more than a nurse, a keeper of hope. Takari built their home from cedar and stone, hunted for the camp, sang to their son, walked with Eleanor each night. No one came looking for them, not from the tribe, not from the past. Their world had changed, but they survived. In their son's eyes, laughing as he ran through fields, they saw all they'd lost and fought for. The boy ran barefoot through tall grass, arms wide like wings, his laughter filling the valley. The sun was high, the sky endless blue. He was fast, faster than older kids, and when he tripped on a root, he bounced up grinning, brushing off dirt. Eleanor watched from a hill, hands in her lap, a soft smile on her face. She no longer worried about every breath. Her body, softened by years and struggle, stood strong. She had lines around her mouth and eyes, but they weren't bitter. They showed she lived and loved. Takari sat beside her, sharpening a blade smoothly. He looked at their son, then her. "He's faster than I was," he said. She smiled, and louder. Takari nodded, and stubborn. Eleanor glanced at him. "That's from you." They laughed, easy now, free of old weight. Their son ran to the stream, where kids splashed and skipped stones. A girl called his name. He was too busy chasing a dragonfly. "What do you think he remembers?" Eleanor asked softly, watching him. Takari thought for a moment. Not the danger, not the cave, not running. "No," she agreed. "He remembers warmth, the fire, the arms that held him." "Yours," Takari said. "Yours too." He set down the blade, testing its edge. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found you at that station." "I think about that too," Eleanor said. "But I stopped myself." "Why?" "Because nothing before matters more than what came after." A breeze carried sage and fire smells. Women passed with baskets, laughing. One nodded at Eleanor, respect, affection. She nodded back. She wasn't the broken woman from the station anymore. She was part of something, not just a tribe, but a legacy. Kids, new moms, widows, young girls came to her for guidance, strength. Some brought babies, scared and unsure. Eleanor sat with them, held them, sometimes gave milk when hers was gone, but often just gave comfort, showing they weren't alone. She wasn't just Minatari, Mother Flame. She was Eleanor, sacred to this village. Takari stood, brushing off dust. "I'm helping Jolan with the nets. The eastern trap's tricky." Eleanor nodded. "I'll be here." He kissed her forehead. "Always." She watched him go, his coat catching the wind, his braid down his back. Once, she feared he'd vanish. Now, she watched with peace. He always returned. The sun moved, casting golden beams. Kids came back to camp, drawn by stew and bread smells. Eleanor walked to the stream where her son played, fingers in the water. He smiled when he saw her. Mother! Her heart warmed at the word, never old. She sat beside him, dipping her hands in the cold, clean water. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Trying to catch a fish," he said proudly. "Were you quiet enough?" "I tried." He looked sheepish. "But Mara shouted and scared them." Eleanor laughed. "Fish don't like noise. They like patience." "Would they? Like your singing?" he asked. She paused. "Maybe. Sing for them. Maybe they'll come back." So she sang a soft lullaby, one she hummed when he was a tiny, crying bundle. A voice floated over the stream. No fish came, but the boy listened, leaning against her. "Did I come from your belly?" he asked suddenly. She paused, choosing her words. "No," she said. "You didn't grow in my belly, but I'm yours, right?" She looked at him, his face sun-kissed, eyes like Takari's, spirit all his own. "Yes," she said. "You're mine. From the moment I held you, when you needed me." He thought about it. Then who's my real mother? The question was gentle, like a test. She looked at the water. Your first mother gave you life. She gave you a name in her heart, even if she never said it. She gave you your eyes, your breath. She's part of you, always. He nodded. And you? I gave you milk. I gave you arms to sleep in, stories, songs, everything I had. I gave you my heart. He reached for her hand. I like that. She squeezed his fingers. Me too. They sat, the boy leaning on her, the stream singing softly. That evening, the camp gathered around a big fire. Kids tumbled, elders passed out soup. Takari returned, damp from river traps, but happy fish came, enough for all. The boy ran to him, yelling about stones, dragonflies, and fish songs. Takari lifted him, listening with a patient smile. Eleanor stood at the firelight's edge, watching father and son. No blood, all bond. An elder approached, her gray hair and straight spine strong. You've made a home here, she said. Eleanor nodded. I didn't plan to, but yes. The elder looked at the boy. He carries many stories in his blood. I know, Eleanor said. And when he's older, he'll need them all. He will. The elder paused. What'll you tell him? Eleanor looked at the fire, where the boy danced, barefoot, smiling wide. I'll tell him love made him, saved him, raised him. The elder smiled. Then he'll walk strong. The night grew deep, stars filling the sky. The fire burned. Lo, kids fell asleep. Takari and Eleanor lay under their blanket of stars. The boy curled between them, warm, safe. He'd grow, ask more questions, leave this valley one day for a bigger world. But when someone, somewhere asked, Who's your mother? He'd answer without pause. The woman who saved me with love before she knew my name. Some stories come from blood, others from something deeper. This one shows family isn't just who you're born to, but who loves and fights for you. Have you seen love so strong it broke all rules? Share in the comments what touched you most. If this moved, you don't go yet. The next big story's waiting. Tap the screen and let it start.